my name is Bree, and welcome to the first episode of the Let's Talk Sports podcast with Bree. In today's episode, we're going to be talking all things football, like the transfer portal, the NFL playoffs, and coaching moves in the NFL. I hope you guys will stick around and watch. So, without further ado, let's get into our first section, which is the transfer portal. Alright, let's get into the first topic, which is the transfer portal. So, we're going to talk about all the Duke transfers that have transferred out and in. We're also going to talk about some key transfer players. So, yeah. The first little part we're going to talk about is all the Duke transfers. So, first we have Rent Monty. He was a quarterback, and he has not yet committed to play anywhere yet, but he did come from Lafayette in 24. Star Thomas, he was a running back. He committed to play at the University of Tennessee. Montre Smith, he was a cornerback, and he committed to play at Western Kentucky. Grayson Loftus, he backed up Malik Murphy, and last season, or the 23-24 season, he backed up Riley Leonard. When Riley Leonard got hurt, I think it was against Notre Dame, he did get a couple of starts, but other than that, and he did play the bowl game, I think. But he committed to play at Charlotte. Malik Murphy committed to play at Oregon State. He was starting quarterback for Duke this season. He came from Texas, and he backed up Quinn Ewers. And then Carter Wyatt, he was a linebacker, and he has not yet committed to play anywhere. My thoughts on this is, I don't know. Malik Murphy, so obviously they're gonna have to get another quarterback, which they did in the transfer portal. They also have one coming in, maybe two coming in that are in the freshman class. One is actually from where I live or where I'm from. He's committed to play at Duke. So yeah, Star Thomas, he was our good running back, but I think they've gotten some good running back freshmen and in the portal. So yeah. I definitely wasn't expecting Malik Murphy to transfer, but oh well. Grayson Loftus, I could probably kind of see it just because he probably wanted a starter position, but we'll see. So now that the transfer's in, Cooper Barcate, he's a wide receiver. He came from Harvard. Anderson Castles, he is a running back, and he came from Appalachian State University. All of these schools, except maybe one or two, were played on teams that really didn't get to play on like ESPN or ACC Network or the Big 12 Network or wherever, or CBS, Fox, wherever they play them. Jaden Franciscos, he was a cornerback. He came from Utah State. Caleb Weaver, he's a safety, and he came from Sam Houston. Anderell Anthony, he's a wide receiver. He came from Oklahoma. He was the one that probably did get a little bit of playing on SEC Network, ESPN, wherever, because of the SEC's good in football. Then you have Josiah Green, who is a defensive lineman, and he was from Dartmouth. And then we have, the number one the number one quarterback in the transfer portal, but another guy entered the transfer portal, and he was considered the number one quarterback. So, and it is Darian Messia, and he came from Tulane. So yeah. Then just like some key transfers, I'm gonna start with NC State. So Casey Concepcion, he left NC State and went to Texas A&M, which I don't like, but that's okay. I don't know. I don't really know why. If you guys have kept up with like coaching stuff, then you'll know that the former Duke head coach left last season, like with 3 games left, and went to coach at Texas A&M. Obviously, it was all for money. obviously, but it's just the way he left. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say anymore. Maybe I'll talk about that later on. Another one is Carson Beck. If you don't know who Carson Beck is, like, you cannot watch, like, none of y'all have to watch sports, and y'all should know who Carson, I mean, not y'all, but not, y'all should know, but y'all have heard the name. He was the Georgia quarterback, the starting quarterback. He never won a championship as a starting quarterback. When he did win, he was backing up Stetson Bennett. But he left UGA and went to Miami, which will be that'll be a good fit for him because they are losing Cam Ward. Cam Ward has entered the draft. So yeah. Kaden Salter, this is probably another big one. He left Liberty and went to Colorado. And he obviously is going to be replacing Shedeur Sanders. So another big name. That's a great pickup for Coach Prime and the Buffs because Sanders has entered the transfer portal, the NFL draft. So, yeah. So now let's move on to the NFL and the NFL playoffs. Okay, now let's talk about the NFL playoffs. So, okay, this is on. Making sure I was still on. So, they're still happening. The day that I'm filming this is the conference championships. So, we're going to talk about that, and then I'm going to make my predictions on the conference championships and who is in the Super Bowl, or who do I want to be in the Super Bowl, and who's going to win. Okay, so we had the wild card round. So, the higher seed gets to host their stadium. So, it was the Chargers. In the AFC, we had the Chargers versus the Texans. And and the Texans won. The Texans were led by CJ Stroud, who is in his second year in the NFL. The Steelers versus the Ravens, and the Ravens won. The Ravens were led by Lamar Jackson. And then you had the Bills and the Broncos. The Bills won, but the Broncos had a really good season. This was the first time they made it to the playoffs in quite a few years. They were led by rookie quarterback Bo Nix from the University of Oregon. So, yeah, and the Bills were led by Josh Allen. And then in the NFC, we had the Packers versus the Eagles. The Eagles won. The Eagles were led by Jalen Hurts. And then we also had in the NFC, we had the Commanders versus the Bucks. The Commanders won. The Commanders were led by Jaden Daniels, and the Buccaneers are led by Baker Mayfield. The Bucks had an okay season. The Commanders had a really good season, considering they literally missed the playoffs last year and made the playoffs, and now they're in the conference championship, which we will get to that. And then the Rams versus the Vikings, and the Rams took down the Vikings. So yeah, at the Rams Stadium. So yeah, and then the divisional round. So the two teams that got first round byes were the Lions and the Chiefs. And this is where some upsets started happening. So in the division, we had the Commanders versus the Lions. The Lions took down the Commanders took down the Lions. So that was a big statement win. And it was at the Lions Stadium. Then the Texans versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs got the win. Chiefs are led by Patrick Mahomes. And then the Rams versus the Eagles, and the Eagles won. And then the Bills versus the Ravens, and that was a really good game, but ultimately the Bills won. And then now in the conference championships, we have in the NFC, it's the Commanders versus the Eagles, and I would really like it for the Commanders to win. And then conference championship is the Bills versus the Chiefs, and it is at the Chiefs Stadium, and it's at the Eagles Stadium. So I'm picking I would say the underdogs for both of these games. I'm picking the Commanders and the Bills winning it all in the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think that the Bills can beat the Chiefs. I don't know. There was this percentage that I found a couple weeks ago So the Chiefs benched their starting quarterback, and like they benched Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, a bunch of their starters against the Broncos, and put in their second and third string to rest them for the NFL. Well, I saw this thing, it was like 95% of the teams that bench their starters in the last week don't make the Super Bowl. So we'll see. What's at stake for these games is the Chiefs are trying to reach the Super Bowl for the third straight year and trying to do a three-peat, which has never been in history, and I don't really want to. But anyway. Also, let me know in the comments down below what your guys' predictions are. And who you guys this just went blurry. Sorry guys. Who you guys want to win. Like I said, I think it'll be the Commanders versus the Bills. Or I want it to be the Commanders versus the Bills. And the Bills win. That would be really good for them. So yeah. Next, let's move on to our last and final section, which is coaching moves in the NFL. Okay, now we're going to talk about coaching moves in the NFL. So we're just going to be talking about head coaches, and yeah, let's get into it. So all the teams that have had new coaches, they have fired every one of their coaches. Their coach is not retired, they've all fired. So Patriots is Mike Vrabel, and they fired their first year head coach. So now he has a position. The Bears, which is Ben Johnson, he was the Lions offensive coordinator this past season, so now he will be a head coach. So the Lions will be looking for a new offensive coordinator. The Jets hired Aaron Glenn, and that is the Lions defensive coordinator from this past season, so they will be looking for a defensive coordinator. The Jaguars, they hired Liam Cohen, and he was the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Raiders hired Pete Carroll, who was the former Seahawks coach that was let go last year at the end of the 23-24 season. And then the Cowboys, there were many rumors about Deion Sanders, the Colorado head coach, going to Dallas, and maybe him trying to coach his sons, and just many different rumors. Since then, they have been squashed. If you've seen my last two videos about like their little short clips talking about it, you'll have heard that they hired their offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. Yeah. And then the New Orleans Saints. They have not yet hired a coach yet, but we'll see. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of the Let's Talk Sports podcast with Bree. Let me know in the comments down below what was your favorite thing that I talked about, and also, did you learn something new? Also, put into comments also down below some video ideas that you would like me to film or maybe talk about. And I hope you guys will like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.